Senate Intelligence Committee report on the CIA and its torture programs. The now infamous report is what forced President Obama to make this famous statement.
Even before I came into office, I was very clear that in the immediate aftermath of 9/11, we did some things that were wrong. We did a whole lot of things that were right, but we tortured some folks. We did some things that were contrary to our values.
Senator Dianne Feinstein has been pushing the White House to reject the CIA's redacted version of the report, but so far the Obama administration has stood its ground in defense of it. Earlier, I spoke with former Congressman Ron Paul about the report's possible findings, and I first asked him if he thinks Senator Feinstein will win the fight to make the 6,000-page report available to the public.
Well, probably not. I hope she is, but you know, she's been on both sides of this issue. She's a very strong supporter of policies that we've been following these past 10 years. She's a strong supporter for NSA. Of course, she changed her mind when the CIA started spying on her, which is okay, better late than never. But, you know, there's powerful special interests, and they'll say, oh, you don't want to give up our secrets. And one of their arguments is absolutely bizarre. It says, well, you know what? If people find out that we torture people, they're going to be angry with us, and they might have, you know, and they might motivate them to violence. Well, they already know about it. Look at what the pictures did, you know, 10 years ago. It made a lot of violence broke out there. But denying the truth because you're afraid of a negative reaction? I mean, we want to know the truth, and that's what government should be all about, is telling the American people the truth. But I mean, the American government is like almost every government that existed throughout history. They don't want to tell the people the truth. It's always deceptions and deceiving the people and lying to the people and making them pay all the bills. And right now, that's certainly what they're doing in Iraq, saying, you know, there's a tragedy there, and that's why the propagandists may get support. Hopefully not. I hope they stick to their guns and keep looking at the tragedy and the failure of Iraq. 78%, you say, are not supportive of us being there, and the war was a failure. It's a good argument for my position, non-intervention, but not non-intervention only after it fails, but non-intervention before it gets started and before you have the failure.
Mm-hmm. And this is the first independent review, of course, of interrogation procedures post 9/11. It's based entirely on classified records. It's very important information. Now, many people who've seen it say that the findings are chilling. What do you think this report could reveal, and do you think it will reveal anything different than what we already know?
Well, I think that it's already pretty horrible, so I don't know what to really expect to make it much worse. You know, they also use the argument that we don't want to know too much because we don't want to know who the individuals were that made the mistakes. So investigations and commission reports, they never find anybody at fault. They usually hide those problems. So you know, it's usually a way to cover up for government agents, and the government, the administration is quite frank about this. You know, that we want to you know, protect names and personnel and the people involved, and we don't want the people to know the truth because there might be a negative reaction from it. But no, I use those as reasons why we should know about it, and we should have a clean report.
Mm-hmm. Now, just this month, the CIA's own Inspector General confirmed Feinstein's charges that the agency had spied on the Senate committee's computers and staff email, which, of course, John Brennan had previously denied. Let's take a look at that denial.
Let me assure you that CIA in no way was spying on the SSCI or the Senate. We greatly respect the separation of powers between the executive branch and the legislative branch.
He, of course, later apologized. We now know that wasn't the case. They were indeed spying on the committee. And President Obama still says that he has full confidence in the director. He's supporting him 100%. In your mind, should there be consequences for John Brennan? And furthermore, should there be consequences for the CIA over committing this kind of espionage?
There should be, but there hardly ever is. I mean, it's a joke. I would think that the only healthy thing that can come from this, when you have a Brennan say one thing and lie through their teeth and then turn around and have to apologize to the very committee that he lied to, and then nobody gets punished, nobody gets removed. I mean, you might say, well, no, nobody's going to prosecute him and nobody's going to send him to jail, but at least get rid of him. And, you know, and it's continuous, because if the Republicans, a lot of bad stuff happened under the Republicans, but as soon as the Democrats get in, they have no stomach for cleaning up the mess, because they're all one. They all support the same foreign policy. So the individuals that pursued our foreign policy under Bush are protected by the next administration, no matter how much superficial arguments there are. But no, they shouldn't be protected, and they should be removed. But the American people should come away with a healthy skepticism of ever believing what our government tells us, because it's very rare that we know the truth, especially if it's controversial. We're not going to hear it from the government. We have to dig it up from some other source. We have to hope and pray for a whistleblower.
All right. Well, John Yoo, who under the Bush administration authored the memos providing legal justification for the interrogation techniques, says the tactics used by the CIA were fundamental to intelligence gathering. He said Senator Feinstein would have to prove an impossible counterfactual historical question, that even if the U.S. did not acquire the great wealth of information from the interrogations, it would still have been able to capture or kill al-Qaeda's leadership, including Osama bin Laden, and cripple its ability to project power from Afghanistan. Do you think there's a point to be made there?
The only point is that they're fibbing a whole lot, if not flat out lying about it, because you've had other CIA agents in some investigations said that nothing that came from torture helped them to catch bin Laden, you know, and the whole thing is torture is such a horrible procedure practiced by a so-called civilized society that it shouldn't be permissible. But believe me, it doesn't work. It's total failure, and it destroys the integrity of the people and the government and the credibility of it. So there should be no moral argument, no pretense that torturing people for 120 times with waterboarding and saying, oh yeah, there's constitutional justification for this, which is pure nonsense.
Mm-hmm. And I want to ask you about Senator Dianne Feinstein. You mentioned this earlier. She's long had a reputation as a staunch defender of the nation's spy agencies. She was a vocal supporter of NSA surveillance, and she got a lot of flack for that. In this latest case, we're seeing her take the opposite line. What do you make of her response to the issues, of the flip-flopping?
Well, like I said earlier, better late than never. Yeah, she flip-flopped, but maybe it's a healthy flip-flop, because, you know, she realized that something she endorsed backfired on her, and this is said to be true in all authoritarian governments, is you can't ever trust them, because once you're participating in it, they can turn on you. So they turned on her, and she says, oh yeah, spy on those bad people, and spy on all the Americans, because there may be some bad people, but don't spy on me, because I'm a senator, and I'm trustworthy. So she had an eye-opener there. All we can do is hope that it's very real and intellectual, and that she would change her position, but that remains to be seen, because most of the people in Washington are authoritarians rather than individuals who defend personal liberty.